to Around the House Quick Cuts. I'm your host, Don Magruder, and today we're going to talk about what's in your wall. You know, everybody's hanging pictures and hanging curtains and all kind of stuff on the wall, but a lot of times you don't know what's in between the drywall. So we're going to give you a little lesson on interior wall framing and hopefully give you some ideas and pointers that maybe save you a little time. Joining me today is Bart Lucas. He's the manager of Romac Building Supply in Leesburg, and this guy's an expert when it comes to wall and wall framing and the supplies it takes. So Bart, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
First off, we got two types of interior walls that we're using here in Lake and Sumter County. We're using a wood wall that's in most houses, and in the villages we have a lot of metal stud walls.
Correct, yes.
So let's talk about what makes up a wood wall. Bart, tell us all the pieces, parts.
Well, to start with, you take a piece of borate treated lumber, which is termite and bug resistant on the bottom. You always use that on the bottom plate to give you a good grounding so your bugs don't come any further up. After that, you've got your 2x4 studs, which a stud is cut down to 92 5/8 or 104 5/8, depending on your wall height.
But on a typical 8-foot wall, it's 92
5/8, and that way when you have your bottom plate and your top plate bottom measures right at 8 foot. That gives you your full 8 foot when you go to 96 inches. You have your fire blocking in between that kind of gives you stability for the wall so that the wood doesn't bow or twist. It also prevents the fire from spreading as fast as what it could. Top plate, we've got a top plate which is a double top plate is what we use on wood. The reason you use a double top plate, there's three main reasons. One is it gives stability in a wall. If you've got a wall running this way and a wall running this way, you can combine the two with an overlay on the top to give them stability on the top. Another reason that if you've got, say, a 20-foot wide wall, well, we don't use 20-foot wide lumber on the top, so we may have to split the top plate right in the middle. Well, that's going to weaken that wall at that point. So we put another piece on top of it, which again gives stability to that wall.
And that's the reason why sometimes it's called a mending plate.
A mending plate, that's correct.
Yeah.
The third reason, which is probably the most important, is when you have trusses are set 2 foot on center. Your typical walls are set 16-inch on center. So if you've got a truss sitting right here, well, your other truss is going to sit here, and then it's going to go down there. Well, if you sit that truss there on that single top plate, you have a tendency to have a little bit of bow in it. So a second top plate on the top gives it stability for that truss to come down and rest solid on.
And a couple things, you mentioned the wall is on 16-inch centers, so starting from the corner or where the wall starts, every 6 inches should be an 1 3/4 inch area of hard stud.
That's right, and it's 16 inches on center, so for the center of this board to the center of that board is going to measure 16 inches, so you should be able to check your wall.
Now, a couple things, in a lot of houses, people are using a pest treatment where they do spray borate about halfway up, and that's a good treatment. But now, one thing that is offered at Romac, and you and I both built houses using it.
That's right.
We built a wall with all borate framing, and that's really the cat's meow for bug prevention.
Yeah, that's true. I've had my house for 13 years. I don't have termite prevention on it. I rarely see any bugs inside my house, but we use, Don and I both, all of our lumber, interior, exterior, the whole thing is all borate treated lumber. And what we do is we send some of our lumber out and have it treated that way so that we don't have to have bug service inside the house or termite service outside the house.
And borate treated lumber is treated with a natural salt borate. It's completely harmless. It's a great product. Now, the other thing we're going to give you a little tip. If you're doing a new home or remodel and you come into a house and you see this, where you have bathrooms and kitchens and other areas that you're hanging big cabinets, tell them what they need to do, Bart.
What you're going to do is take a 2x6 or 2x8 or 2x8, whatever width you want.
2x12 some cases.
2x12 on TVs, they use a lot of that. And you'll stand that board up and you'll bring it to the edge and you'll create a blocking in the middle of the wall, which gives you something to screw to. Common areas for that is towel holders in the bathroom so that when you're yanking that towel off, it doesn't pull it out of the drywall. Kitchen cabinets is another great place to do it. If you know you're going to hang your TV on a wall, you would want to do it up in the middle of the wall. So there's a lot of different areas that blocking comes into play.
It's very important when you're doing a new home remodel, know where you're going to put the big stuff. And if you're requiring some ADA, some handrails and stuff, make sure those areas are blocked.
Yeah.
Now, in the Villages area, there's a lot of steel framing, and steel framing walls are great. First off, you don't have to worry about bugs. They're nice, they're easy to put up. Not all carpenters can put up steel framing, but the most important thing about steel framing is because steel is a true item, meaning that it's straight, you get a much straighter wall in cases.
That's correct.
Talk about what type of gauge we have here.
This is a 25 gauge. It's your standard non-structural drywall gauge wall. We have a 20 gauge also, which is a little more sturdy, and then you get into some structural stuff when you're dealing with walls that need to have some weight on them. They're real easy. You have a track that is used on the top and the bottom. So as one goes up, one goes down, and then you have your studs. And your studs are 3 5/8 thickness, just like what a 2x4 is, and they come 6-inch and wider. And the truth is that the big reason is that it does give you a far straighter wall, because that wall doesn't tend to move when the wood changes. You
Right.
do the same thing with the blocking. If you have certain blocking, you can screw the blocking in straight through this, just like you would on the wood wall.
And the nice thing about these steel walls, they can go up fairly easy. And for example, if wood prices are high, you can get steel prices sometimes lower. But for the most part, steel walls are a little more than this. The biggest difference also, if you're hanging something on a steel wall versus a wood wall, you have to use a steel bit, pre-drill things a lot of times.
That's right.
This one, you can go right with the screw in. Well, Bart, you've got all this at Romac Building Supply in Leesburg, and you got studs in how many different lengths?
Oh goodness, I've got like 12 different lengths of studs that we have, and walls you can have in a 2x4 thickness. You can go up to a 2x8 if you want a really thick wall and get better insulation out of it.
I know you're shipping all kind of walls everywhere.
Every day.
Well, I want to thank you for watching this, and I hope you learned a lot about what's in your wall, and so you can make better decisions later. If you'd like some more great tips, go to aroundthehouse.tv, and we've got some great tips there. Until next time, we will see you around the house.